So welcome to Comply Plus Presents. Today we're talking about the shifting landscape in compliance software for the health and social care sector in the UK. So there's been quite a lot of change, and for some of us that have been in the sector for a long time, I mean, these are huge shifts that will redefine how things are done as far as compliance, governance, workforce development in the sector. It's part of the mini series that we have been carrying out, whereby normally it's Louis talking to me, so Louis hosting. But for the past few episodes, I've been hosting Louis because Louis is our Chief Operating Officer at Landpark Systems, and is one of the key people behind Comply Plus, our regulatory compliance management software. And he's got a front row seat working with providers and understanding their problems, making sure that we build software that is fit for purpose. So we are an independent company. We've been around for more than 10 years, and there were many companies that we competed with. Some of them we collaborated with, some of them we greatly admired, that have been taken over one by big private equity firms and venture capital. And we've seen one by one companies just being bundled together with others, and it's causing a lot of disruption. We know that it was inevitable. This was always meant to happen, that there would be a battleground. You know, if VC funding comes in, if private equity funding comes in, I mean, for some people, you know, running a business day to day, it's inevitable that some people will take the money and walk away.
Yeah, of course. If the offer's right, yeah.
Exactly. So, Louis, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. Yeah, it's been a hell of a week. We're at a really interesting event on Wednesday in London with some NHS leaders, mainly from the Global South, but we also had some really good speakers there from, executives from local trusts and even
regulators as well.
The executive from an NMC and a few regulators as well. So that was really good. And then yesterday, obviously, the supported living and accommodation conference in Birmingham. So yeah, it's been a hell of a week. But yeah, this topic it's so prevalent because even we're part of, this circle. We're getting interest. We're getting letters. You're seeing what's trying to happen. It's sort of a route for people maybe into the healthcare systems in the UK.
You're talking about foreign companies here, isn't it?
Yes, mainly
particularly American
mainly
companies.
foreign companies, but particular American investment. And like you say, a lot of people that were similar to us, where they've built something, and then all of a sudden you check on their website a few weeks later, and they're bundled under this. Their logo's the same, but they've got part of XXX, whatever the holding sort of company is. So it's been transformative. Like you say, I think it was an industry of people such as yourself that have worked in the healthcare and social care systems here in the UK, and then you see an opportunity, you come out of it and you build something using that occupational experience, using your other educational backgrounds and so on, and you build something that you think will make a difference. Because most of the people I've worked with in health and social care go into care because they care. You have to be caring. If we go back to even your care certificate sort of days, duty of care is the first, one of the initial standards. So, and then, but it's changed, since COVID, that digital transformation, been using that word a lot this week with the different events we've been at. And now a lot of the companies coming up, or the people actually acquiring these companies, have no occupational background. They have no real knowledge of how the healthcare systems in the UK worked or are working right now, but they see an opportunity. And it's an interesting landscape. But for us, we know, we have our mission statement, we have our values, like all companies, all good companies do, and we try and stick by those, and we're here to try and make a difference. And while we can keep doing that in the space we're in, we will stick to that commitment.
Yeah, I mean, staying independent, it's quite a challenge as well, isn't it? We can talk about that properly a bit later. So look, I remember when I started out in social care, actually, my first job in this area was in social care, in a care home, nursing home for older people. And like you rightly say, it was hard work, and still is hard work. You work long hours for very little pay. and you're working several days a week, long days, night shifts, weekends, bank holiday. It doesn't
Still
matter.
the reality now,
So
isn't it?
when people come in with deep pockets, my experience, actually, I remember saying to one of the people, I know you don't really care about all the other stuff. You just care about the numbers, right? And it's like, oh no, we do care about the story. Yeah, kind of. It comes on to money, and if you're running a business with all the challenges, I get it. I get why
Of course,
some of our compatriots, people we started out with slugging it out. In what somebody described as a cottage industry. One of the VC people told me that, well, we're trying to reorganize this because it's a cottage industry. And sort of think, wow, is that how we are bundled up now?
Yeah, sort of perceived in a way. Yeah.
Exactly. Look, it's not just health and social care. Even in education, we've seen that.
Yes.
Who owns the academies? Who, and also the software behind the systems behind running schools, early years sectors, children's services. Even yesterday, we were at a conference. I remember one person yesterday saying, because I wanted to just try to understand the solutions that they offer. So I think he sized me up and he says to me, oh, we only focus on the medium to large size companies. So basically, walk along, mate.
Yeah. What I used
So
to do.
I kind of enjoy that to sort of say, look, it's kind of sad what's happening, right? And it's not just health and social care, it's education, it's domiciliary care, it's children's services. We're seeing this. Any compliance-led industry, there's an opportunity for well-funded VC sort of firms and PE firms to come into these regulatory compliance-led industries because you get access to data. You get access to the NHS. You get access to the care systems. Kind of makes sense. I mean, this morning, Elon Musk has been announced that he's going to be even richer. He's probably going to be the first trillionaire in the world, right? So I kind of get it. It's all about data. And it's all about getting in to these compliance sort of led sectors. What's your experience of that?
Yeah, I mean, like you say, the data that even companies like us hold, it isn't quite at the level of sensitive, but there's a lot of data there that can then be used. We see, we even attended a lecture at Westminster earlier this week about the impact of AI and the economics behind it and how much it's worth and what it could be worth. Even in as short as the next 2 to 3 years, let alone the next 30, 40 years, and the power of it. So, yeah, look, these people are coming in; they're here to stay. It shouldn't discourage people from continuing to work in the sector or even working with some of these people, because, for me, if you still have that unique selling point, if you still have the good ideas, if you're still offering value to customers, you've still got clients and even individuals that we serve that are getting value from what we're doing, then why should we stop? What are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to give up? Are we supposed to just sell? Because these guys don't just offer ridiculous sums to everyone either. They're very hard negotiators.
Oh yes. The valuations actually. Some people have walked away. Some companies have been bought for £1 because they were so heavily leveraged. They've got huge workforce. They've got a mortgage. They've borrowed money to develop systems. And then if somebody comes in to rescue you from the current situation and they're using the Silicon Valley model, you could go out with a big payout, or you could walk away with nothing.
Yeah, no, exactly. And these people, like I say, they have those models where they aggressively target you. They'll try and get your market share. They have big pockets. So they can afford to maybe discount products and services or similar products and services to you just to get the market share. Then, they get people signed up on these long contracts. I'm having lots of conversations almost every week now with people that are trying to get out of these contracts. They think it's unfair. They think it's this. They think it's that. And the human and morale side to me says it is unfair. But the reality is when you sign a legal document, you've signed it.
You live or die by it.
And you have to, stand on that sword, so to speak. So I don't like those. We're not a company that try and do that. I think there has to be an element of fairness in the relationship. But look, that's the way these guys operate, and they've been very successful at it. You can't knock them from a business perspective. There's a reason they have big investment funds to invest, because the people that put those funds in are very confident that these companies are going to get the value and the return. So, look, there's two ways you can look at this. There are positive. I know we're going to go into it later on in the session. There's positives of being in our position. There's obviously negatives as well.
Yeah.
But for me, it's exciting. Even going to things yesterday, seeing what other companies are doing, even some of the stands where people are offering sort of similar things to what you're doing, but not quite the same. But even seeing some of their ideas, you sort of come back from those and you get inspired, and then you think, how could we do something similar with our customers? Or that's a good idea. Have we ever thought about doing something like that? Or you could even flip it and think about something completely different to say, look, we're not a company that are just going to go out there and copy, their system does that, so we want to do that. But you can use ideas. It's like really the way the AI is working at the moment. I think the people who are using it best are the ones that prompt it and they use it for inspiration to come up with their own things. If you're just using AI for answers, you're likely to fail, or you're likely to hit roadblocks, because ultimately there are a lot of people out there just using it for the answer.
Yeah.
You know, like the classic one you're seeing on LinkedIn at the moment is CVs, isn't it? I just reject so many candidates because I know it's ChatGPT, for example. I know the offer letter is ChatGPT, or I know the CV is ChatGPT, or I know the email they sent asking for the job is not genuine. It's, you know, so... But yeah, look, that's where we're getting now, and it makes you realise, even with what we're doing, you know, the importance of evolving the product.
Yeah.
Continuous development on the product is really important, because there's so many systems out there, there's so many people promising the world, but we want to stick to the facts. What can we offer? What do we want to offer? And we want to be customer-led as well. A lot of these companies, even what I saw yesterday, they're going with the trends in the wider world.
Yeah.
They're saying they're AI-enabled. They're saying they're this. They're saying they're that. But deep down, how much value is that actually offering their target customers?
So we go back to the basics again to sort of say, why do we exist? You know, those values, the core values. Because you can see the Silicon Valley influence, isn't it? Build fast, consolidate, scale, dominate.
Yeah.
And the playbook is that if we can't build it, we'll buy it. So that's the conundrum in a way,
it's to get there faster, isn't it? It's like we've launched a few things recently, and then all of a sudden we receive a letter from one of these said, and you sort of think, okay, so they're watching you like an absolute hawk.
Yeah.
And time is everything in life, to be honest, but in business it's really important. And if you've got the money to buy the solution rather than build it and go through the blood, sweat and tears like people like us have done to build tech or to build solutions or to come up with ideas, do strategy days, speak to advisors, which all cost time and, more importantly, money for these people, why wouldn't you just buy it? You know, if we were in that position, you know, a lot of us would do the same, because it makes sense to get somewhere quicker before other people can maybe circle in.
Yeah.
It's all a game of chess, and that's in a way the beauty of it, because it is so strategic and it does make you think all the time. But yeah, like I said, there's positives and negatives to where we are.
So look, we don't want to demonize VCs and
No, definitely not.
private equity firms. They brought some good things as well to the sector.
They have,
You know, from your experience, what sort of things would you admire, so to say? Because obviously when you're sitting at home and hearing about Elon Musk, hearing about NVIDIA, these sound like they are monsters far away almost, isn't it? But we are living it every day, where we're now competing with the same people that are funding Silicon Valley companies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think one thing I've noticed is maybe some of the smaller players who are maybe, I need to choose my words carefully here, but some of the smaller players that were maybe in, and they're just licensing things off other people. They're not really adding much value. That, you know, they're maybe reselling a bit of stuff here. It's cheap, cheerful. Some of the content's a bit outdated. Some of the systems are a bit clunky. They're built on old platforms. I think what the VCs and you know, those sort of investors have done is they've swept a lot of them out of the market, because they've took a lot of their market share to the point where they can't recover. In a way that then sort of levels up the game in a way, because, you know, now we're all on this sort of platform now where we're all competing at similar sort of levels, which I think is like I say, a slightly good thing. But they've also brought some really good ideas, innovation, even like you say, the perception of, as you were saying, people like us who have training systems, who look at compliance, who look at governance, is even the tech and compared to other solutions that you can get in other industries, we're a bit behind the times. People would get frustrated that something can't do this, whereas when they go home and they want the takeaway or something, they can just get it instantly on the phone. So I think people are always comparing people like us and other companies to sort of say, look, why can't we do this? Why can't we do that?
In this day and age, when I can do
when
this,
I can do this
in my
when I get
private life,
home,
your
or I can
system
put
should
my
be able to do.
yeah, I can put my heating on before I even get to my house now. But you're telling me I can't get this bit of data or this sort of report, or I can't send this bit of information to that system. So I think and obviously just overall the tech, the evolving of tech, and even things like AI, using that word again, have helped that. But I think even as a sector and as a service provision, us and the other companies I'm talking about here, we've upped our game in terms of what we can provide. And like I say, the players in the game that have been able to adapt quickly and take on this tech and foreseen what was going to happen. And even for us, we've been forced to, because we're competing against some of these giants. We can't sit still. If there is an update in whether it's AI or some sort of tech, or CQC announced something, or the NMC announced something, or Ofsted announced something, we can't say, "Oh, we'll read that next week." Or
you have to anticipate as well, isn't it, what the impact is going to be in practice. Then you adapt your tech solutions as well.
Well, exactly.
So that people that are using your software can stay up to date.
If there's going to be regulation change, what does that mean then for our customers? Does it mean, we offer policies and procedures, we offer a lot of online CPD courses, we offer a consultancy, we offer other types of solutions. How is it going to affect every type of product or service? But even then, some of the staff members that are offering this advice, we've got knowledge bases, we've got blogs on the website. All of those things you then have to go and update, because if someone sees it and it's outdated, or it's actually factually wrong based on a legislation change or whatever it is, you look stupid and you lose credibility.
It's dangerous as well, isn't it?
Very dangerous in our world. We are literally helping people look after people's lives. The people we serve, whether it's the business owners or the people on the ground actually giving this care to people. If something's wrong in something we've provided and that results in, God forbid, a fatality or a really bad accident,
it's on you as well.
It's on us as well,
So what I'm hearing from you is it's not all bad. The VCs, private equity, they brought some professionalism.
They have,
they brought some capital, and with capital comes innovation, because you're not worried about the funding. And there's a global reach as well, which for us is quite challenging, because obviously if they're outspending you on marketing and PR and all that's a challenge. But also, worryingly, there's a change in the focus, where for us traditionally it was always about customer care. And now it's about customer acquisition. So we're moving away from quality to scaling, scalability. And that's an important point in itself, because in health and social care, you're not selling shoes. You're not selling some software widgets that people can just dispense off when they don't want them anymore. You're looking at people, you're supporting people who care for others. Even yesterday at the conference, they kept saying, I really care about this. Somebody's got to care about children. And that person actually may not necessarily be the person in charge of the business. So it's relational, not transactional. And again, these words were used yesterday for looking at children's services to say, look, it's got to be relational. Rather than transactional. I don't know, from your side, as far as the tensions, how do you see that?
I think that's where the tension lies. It's between the human side of care and the mechanized logic of investment. That's the really key point there,
Yeah, so it's about algorithms sometimes with investment as well, isn't it? Sort of say, look, the business model is like this, so you almost have to follow that.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, like you say, because you've got the human side, the duty of care side as well, it's trying to think, I think the way the software side of things is going, it's trying to think, how can we automate as much as possible so that people on the ground can focus on what they should be focusing on and what they're best at focusing on and what they went into the profession to focus on. They don't want to be dealing with fancy tech. They don't have half an hour to do X, to do Y. So if people can bring systems in to add efficiency, obviously evidence compliance, because that's a big part of what they need to do with the regulators, then it answers problems. But as we've done on some earlier podcasts, it's hard to find a one-size-fits-all solution. there is a digital literacy issue in health and social care, whether people want to admit it or not. So I know we've touched on those topics already, but I think that's the balance. And even when we come up with ideas and so on, we have to always think, how will this work in practice? We can sit here, do demos, pat each other on the back and say how great this is, that this can do that, and this bit of data can shift to here. And people, if they embed this in the care home or in the GP practice, it can do this. But that's why the occupational experience side, I think, is really, really important. Because we've also seen some, we were speaking to, obviously, an advisor of ours on Wednesday in London about being too feature rich, which I think is a really interesting concept in itself with the way our industry's going and the evolution of technology and so on. But yeah, sometimes people can get bogged down in the feature-rich side as well, yeah.
So look, without risking overselling here, right? We want to flip the coin because obviously we've made a deliberate choice to remain independent, and that's come with a lot of challenges as well in itself. Why do you think independence still matters in a market that is dominated by bottomless pits of capital almost? Because we could have chosen to take a lot of money from investors.
Yeah. I think the sort of headline there for me is independence equals authenticity. We're still, like I say, fully independent. Even the systems we've built, we own most of them. We've built them ourselves. We don't license. We're not relying on other people to maybe fix something for a client. If we have a problem or our clients have a problem, we own the problem and we make something happen about it. We don't sit on it. Whether they're a client spending thousands of pounds with us a year or whether they're an individual buying a few things for £30 or £40, we're still going to have, we still have pipelines, we have support teams that are performance driven to fix those problems and respond to customers. We can still pick up customers on the phone. And I call customers, and I'm a chief operating officer. Some people will say, "Oh, you shouldn't have time for that. You should be down in London doing this, or over here doing that, or on a beach somewhere." But that's not the reality of how we run things. Yes, we've got titles because obviously we have an organisational structure, but no one's too big to pick up the phone. No one's too big to help with a problem. And even our ethos as a company, we do get involved in customer service sometimes. We do get involved with the design teams. We do get involved with the content teams. We do help with the tech development. We are more hands-on than probably what everyone thinks we are. And I like that. I can name, particularly with some, even the clients I spoke to yesterday, I can name them. I can name the companies. I speak to a lot of our main particular key clients quite often, or at least I try to. If they answer the phone to me or respond to my emails, that's fine. So look, I think we offer more of that personal touch. We've got some really good support teams that solve problems for customers when they arise, I think, really quickly. We've got live chats. We're quite accessible. And even as people behind the business, even the fact we do things like this, we're very vocal on social channels. Obviously, I have a newsletter that goes out every week. You have a newsletter that goes out every week. We're frequent users of those channels now because we want to be more out there. We want to understand what's going on. We want people to know who's behind our business. Some of the, like I say, the venture capitalist companies or the hedge fund companies now that are coming in, it's very difficult to ever see the owners or the people actually behind the business.
They're nameless,
making decisions. They're nameless. They're ghosts in a way. We know they exist, but we don't see them. We don't hear from them. We don't know what they maybe stand for at times. So for me, I think that is one of the big things. We're quite authentic. We're very sort of blatant about where we've come from, what we're trying to achieve. I'd like to think we don't come across arrogant or that we're offering the best solution on the market, or if you don't use us, you're going to fail, sort of thing. We're quite transparent, and we're always customer led. And if people have problems or they have constructive feedback, we'll always take that on board. So for me, we've got more of that human side. I'd say that is one of the positives of the position we're in right now.
I mean, to add on to that, we're practitioner-led as well.
Yes, the lived experience is important.
Lived experience. We've built on our knowledge and also the community that we're in, where we have several advisors, contractors, partners, people that we work with that have that experience. I've done day shifts, long day shifts, late shifts, twilight, night shifts, weekend. I've dealt with CQC. I've dealt with many different sort of regulators, and for me, actually, the fact that we have faced some of these challenges firsthand, and working in prison, working in GP practice, working in community, working in the NHS and in research, it gives you a lot of background to understand problems and then sort of appreciate how to solve them. Even training, when you look at e-learning, it's not just about putting courses out. It's about thinking about the need for those courses, the aims, the objectives, learning outcomes, actually understanding how to train people in the sector. It's quite different.
Not just tick a box.
It's not just turning up, people get lectured at, and then they go. There's the practical side as well. There's the connections between the different topics, which policies should do what and why.
And the application as well,
Yeah.
So, no, and as we said at the start, that's the occupational experience is the reason that we created this business. If for example, you and some of the other founders didn't work in the industry, we probably wouldn't be sat here now. And I think that is also a big advantage,
Exactly. So look, I want to move on to the perception game here because obviously the way things look do matter, but it's not always what it seems to be. Sometimes you lack depth, right? So I want to talk a little bit more about perception. So the larger players, what they do brilliantly is visibility. I mean, we are quite dominant as well, and we are considered a larger player, although we're independent. But visibility is everything. If I see your ads everywhere, you are ranking very high on all the social platforms. And then the search engines, you're on LinkedIn, you're at trade shows. I see you on TV, on buses sometimes. And now some of our competitors are on buses. If you travel around London, Liverpool, Edinburgh, major cities, you see their ads on buses. So they dominate attention. Does that necessarily translate to better service?
No, it's marketing power, isn't it? We live in a digital age now. They've got multi-million-pound budgets sometimes for these marketing campaigns, whether they're traditional or more likely now digital. They've got full departments. They've got office wings in central London, some of them, that are dedicated to sort of SEO strategy, PR. They've got access to potentially better contacts. They've got richer networks that they can tap into, favors maybe that they can get. They can tell powerful stories. But yeah, look, that's where they are, and that's what you're competing against. But that's where the authenticity on our side can sometimes shine through, and sometimes people see value in that. But look, visibility where we are now is everything. We know even from some of the chats we've had with our advisors about the AI summaries now on search engines, and the fact that this type of marketing is dying. This is the one that's now coming up. This is how people are searching. The way people look for or procure services now is still changing. It's not just about going to Google as it has been for the last 10, 12 years. There's other tools now on the market, but that's, they're always going to have strong brands because they'll invest a lot in that because, it's not always what you do, it's why you do it. And if you have that powerful brand, if you have that powerful brand behind it, people can buy into that sometimes. And that's why you see inferior products sometimes on the market that get traction, maybe because they've got a very strong marketing campaign behind it, or they've got a very strong brand. And you sort of look sometimes and think, why are people using this system, or why have they gone to that company? Not to necessarily downgrade other businesses, but if sometimes you've got a better product and you're offering more value, it can be frustrating. But
when you go to tender sometimes, and
you go
think,
to tender.
I can't believe we've lost out to them.
That company.
But then occasionally, some have come back to us, isn't it?
Yeah, there's been a few sort of ironic or funny cases, if you want to call it that, where the tender that you went for or the business that you'd submitted or applied for went elsewhere. You hear about it wherever you hear it from. 3 months later, you get an email and you sort of think, God, these guys...
It didn't work out.
It didn't work out then. Oh, okay. And then obviously we'll obviously still try and help people. We're not going to turn people away. But you do sometimes get those sort of ironic moments as well.
So the difference between marketing and meaning and, appreciating that independent providers like us, we get attention the hard way. It's very difficult to earn attention sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, we have to do it through outcomes, maybe through referrals, being consistent, even turning up here every Friday, running free webinar events, going to networking events sometimes to be in the right room with people when we could be at our desk slogging away, doing something that to some people may perceive as more value because, if you're doing that work, you're going to get this, it might mean that. Well, whereas you spend a day just basically chatting to people all day, what value is that adding? So, we have to earn it, like you say, the hard way. We have to do it through outcomes. We have real case studies with real customers, and we have to prove our worth to them. We do keep an eye on inspection ratings. We do keep an eye on positive and negative feedback, whether it's on the internet, whether it's via emails, whether it's via our support teams, whether it's via our NPS surveys that we send out. But we can't buy our way to the top, like maybe some other people can, or buy our way and think, oh, we like what they're doing. Why don't we just buy the company?
Yeah.
Because we can just buy it. We've got the money. They're not going to say no to this offer. We've done some checks on these people. They don't have big houses. They don't have the best car. They don't live in a great postcode. So if we offer them this, they'll just accept it and we'll carry on our mission. Yeah.
Look, we've got to talk about the cost of consolidation as well. As you were speaking there, I sort of thinking from the outside, consolidation can look tidy and, bigger budgets, more resources. But from the inside, it can bring friction. And I know you're in touch with some companies or business owners that sold for whatever reasons. But what are you seeing, from the inside view, so to say?
Yeah, I think the big challenge is integration and continuity. So like I say, these acquirers may bundle up 3 or 4 companies very quickly. They may say, look, in 2025 or 2026, as we're going into that year now, we want to buy these 4 companies. And what that then means is, you've got multiple code bases coming in. You've got multiple customer contracts that are in place with all the different companies that those people had independent relationships with. Support teams obviously fully changed. Some may be completely wiped out. Some may come and work with the merged sort of companies under the new umbrella. And that integration is enormous, technically and culturally, really, because it does change a lot of things. People who sit here and say, oh, it will just be seamless, you won't even notice.
Yeah.
There's never a case like that. I mean, we're working with some suppliers now who've recently merged. And I'm not going to say things are worse, because I wouldn't say necessarily they're worse in those particular examples, but it's different and it's not what you're used to. And you're dealing with different people. You've got to build new relationships up. And there's a lot to be said about having a relationship or a contact at a business, whether it's a supplier, whether it's a client, that remains the same. Even we see it with our clients. Someone leaves or there's a turnover of staff. All of a sudden, things start differently. You almost have to resell to them. They want to now all of a sudden do this or do that, or they're getting annoyed that your system maybe can't do this and that. And you sort of think, well, hang on, you signed up when we told you it did this. You can't now come in and change the goalpost. But it works the other way as well. When you're the client and the business you're working with changes. So those things happen. Like you say, familiar faces disappear. Prices inevitably creep up because they've bundled these companies for a reason. They want to get you all within one sort of database in a way and say, look, this is what they were paying with the old company. This is when their contract runs out. What model can we get to keep them with us, keep them locked into the tech, because it's all about locking in, because they want you to fear leaving so that you stay and you keep your data there. And then prices inevitably go up. Then long contracts come out. They think, well, if we can get this company on a 5-year deal, yes, it'll be cheaper every year for them, but they're locked in for 5 years. And people, I wouldn't say fall for it, because for some companies, I'm sure it works well. And some of these companies that are being bundled up, they probably do become superior companies. But the transition is a lot more painful.
Yeah. But then when you look at Health and Social Care, relationships matter. And our experience is that with better relationships, you can retain customers as well. We have to admit that. But there are a lot of risks from what you've just said there. Can you expand a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very good point. It's a very good point because, like I say, I've had conversations with many different providers, even recently. One of them told me once that they just feel like we used to feel like a partner, now we feel like a number. It's almost like you guys have got too big, or and that for me just sums it up. That's the mindset. But like I say, large players have brought professionality. They have improved the quality maybe of some of the services now in what we're offering. And I don't think we should frown on that too much either, because ultimately if we can offer better products, better services, we can impact the people we're serving and help them, as long as those tools are being used correctly and the tools are doing what they say they do, because that's another problem that we've touched on earlier podcasts, where it's feature rich, if I want to use that buzzword again, but actually in reality it doesn't work. It says it's going to do this, but it doesn't.
Yeah, so cautionary tale then, isn't it?
Yes.
Scale comes with a lot of challenges, and sometimes actually it can cost the very core of relationships. We're going towards the end now, and I want to expand a little bit more about some of the lessons. Like we say, we've got to give credit where it's due. When you have so much money from very powerful investors, whether it's VCs, PE, or wherever the money is coming from, a lot of independents can learn from these larger organizations as well. And from your perspectives, I know you touched on, but are there specific areas, if you can give me just two areas where we sort of think we've learned this?
Yeah, definitely. I think in terms of, like I say, two big lessons, I think the first one is the discipline of scale. So the large players excel with documentation, with process, with governance. They've industrialized best practice. So that consistency is something that independents can adopt, and make sure they don't lose that agility in a way. But it's something they need to adopt, they need to mature with, and ultimately they'll build better businesses and offer better services and value to customers. I think the second one is the data maturity, and we know, like you say, why a lot of these people are now circling in. It is because they want that data and they're very good at using that data. For me, they invest in things like analytics, in trends, in metrics. They use the experience insights better a lot of the time to see, to forecast what's needed or forecast what's coming. They foresee the future before the future happens. That's why you have some marvelous brains. Whatever you think of them as individual people, they are marvelous brains.
They're excelling, yeah.
And they're doing very well, and they're constantly making money. And money's not even the goal for those sort of people now, because they don't need it. It's more about just creating groundbreaking things and changing the world almost. So the way they use data, the way they analyze data, the way they critique data, the way they process data, I think is very, very good. And like you say, rather than a customer telling you they need something and then you developing it, which is still good because it's that customer-centric side, and we do a lot of that ourselves, but how can you use some of the things that are going on your systems, on your websites, whether you're going to things like we attended the other day, networking events, and hearing people speak and hearing people's lived experiences. How can you start using all that information, whether it's number-based, whether it's textual, whether it's dialogue? How do you then use that to create those, the future in a way, or foresee what's going to happen? And that visionary sort of mindset, I think a lot of these VC or PE companies have, I think it is fascinating. And just seeing what they're doing on the market, seeing the way they behave, seeing how they tactically acquire certain things to build a faculty and
end to end,
to make sure that they've got every base covered, or you can tell maybe with maybe a company that they've acquired what area now they're going to focus on and home in on, and they're relentless when they home in as well. They don't sway. They don't after 6 months say, actually we'd like a bit of that. If they've agreed something and they've planned for something, they'll execute it until they've got what they want. And that ruthlessness, although it does sound very ruthless, and it is very ruthless, you have to admire it at the same time. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that it's a sweet spot to sort of say, look, you're pairing independence with rigor. You're learning, but also developing some sort of resilience as well.
Yeah.
As an independent.
Yeah. But it also makes you try and think at their level, which for these sort of people in this space, and that the management teams they put in, they've done this before. It's almost like a playbook for them.
I just want to move on now to the global lens in a way, because there's a ripple effect here where we're looking at companies that are coming onto global markets. Quite a lot of this we're saying it's a push from American companies, some Canadian companies, but even some European companies are making moves as well. So it's not just a UK story. We're seeing this sort of pattern internationally.
Yeah. Europe,
capturing even emerging markets. We do quite a lot of work in the Middle East and some African countries as well. We've seen that American, particularly tech companies, whether it's ed tech, it's compliance solutions, entering the UK market and globally as well. Can you just expand a little bit more on that from your perspective?
Yeah, like you say, I think what we're seeing is that ripple effect is global. It's not just a UK or British sort of problem. It's happening worldwide. Investors are shifting, like you say, from capital from saturated US markets to regulated industries across the board, including healthcare training and education in particular. Because, like you say, the UK regulation is attractive because it's very sort of sophisticated. And the UK has always been held to quite high standards in these areas and probably will be for the foreseeable future at least. But it's also quite predictable. What CQC are doing, what Ofsted are doing, what NHS frameworks are doing, what how CPD is sort of interpreted here and how it's utilised. The fact you have mandatory and statutory items that need to be done. And I think obviously investors gain confidence from that because they know it's things people need to do. It's predictable. It's what the likelihood of those frameworks changing drastically are extremely unlikely. So yeah, they like it and they're here to stay. And they also know that I think obviously when you start looking at data that then relates to people's health, their well-being, how they are, that can be very powerful as well. And that's why things like GDPR and other things came in with this sensitive data stuff. But people know that what we're doing from the governance side, even companies that are holding things like care records and things like that, there's an opportunity then when they're getting to mature that data and to do other things, as
and
we said in the last
reuse it elsewhere as well.
Reuse it elsewhere, push other things to people or whatever their intentions are. So I think, like you say, that is what's happening. You don't have to be you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to work out that. You can see it happening if you know where to look. And even just doing some competitor research, we know who's been acquired by who. You just do a quick Google search, you find out when it happened, et cetera, et cetera. You know who's behind these sort of acquisitions as well and who's leading it and where the fund is likely coming from. But I suppose the flip side is, as global players enter, smaller UK providers need to be even more distinct. That means doubling down on what even we do best: local expertise, occupational backgrounds, cultural context, and that personal service that I referred to earlier on. So even for us, it helps us continually improve, not sit still. How do we keep adding value? If we're losing customers to maybe some of these companies, why are we losing them? But also if we're getting clients from these companies, which particularly in the last few months has been the case, without patting ourselves on the back too much, double down on those things, as you were saying earlier. Keep doing those things that you're doing well, because sometimes they're things that money simply can't buy. They can't buy that customer.
Yeah. So you can't outspend Silicon Valley as an independent.
No, of course we can't.
But you can outserve them.
But we can outserve them. Yeah, I think that's a nice way of that's a nice little ending statement there. Yeah.
But anyway, look, if you look at the future of tech, right? We want to look ahead here. What is the future of regulatory compliance software and workforce development software, EdTech? What does it look like?
I think we'll see three things. I think the continued consolidation. So we're going to see smarter. There's going to be investors. They'll focus on integration, quality, and not just acquisition volume. So I think that consolidation will keep continuing. I think there's going to be a lot of AI-led workflows or pipelines, if you like. There's going to be a lot of automation, which will be sold to maybe make things leaner, make people more productive, focus more on the caring side, as I hinted at earlier. And it will free up some of the admin chores that all of us have to do in our daily jobs. I mean, everyone has some sort of admin they have to do. And I think we'll see return of authenticity as well. So customers will rediscover the value of personal connection. I think that's becoming more apparent. Even as AI and things are getting stronger, the transparency and authenticity is also being highlighted, I think, just as much. And even very prominent people in different sectors are really standing up to that. Even some of the talks we heard yesterday about authenticity, about being behind your brand, about being out there more and speaking freely rather than from a script. So I think we will see a lot more of that as well as we move forward. Yeah.
Look, I just want now to focus on some closing reflections. I think we can talk about this all day. So I want us here to leave our listeners with something practical. If I were to ask for 5 key takeaways for health and social care providers particularly, but even those in education and early years, this new landscape that we've talked about here, how do they navigate it? If you're going to give them some advice.
Yeah, I mean, if I was in their shoes looking at these different systems, and there are so many things now, it's almost like a kid in a sweet shop scenario. There's so much choice. But the 5 that me and my sort of research team come up with in preparation for today was, don't confuse marketing with meaning. Just because they're the best marketers, just because they maybe have this amazing brand with, it appears really professional and this, that, and the other. Choose partners who actually understand the regulatory world. Who's behind that business? Who seems to know what they're talking about? What's their backgrounds? What are they actually offering me? How much time are they giving me in that decision-making process? Do I get a demo? Do I get a free trial? Do I get to speak to someone with the right background to advise me, or am I just speaking to another member of staff? Don't just look at, like you say, the buying power. I think continuity, not just capability, is important. Like, how long have this company been around? Who are the people behind the business? What happens if they're acquired? Who are we then going to be dealing with? Will it be the same people? Do they have a high turnover of staff? Are you speaking to someone different every time you engage with the company? I think those things are really, really important. Value independence. So, like I say, look for that authenticity, look for empathy, look for people with the right experience, lived experience in particular. Whether your partner is large or small, make sure they care about your outcomes. Make sure, and not just about growing the account, not just how much money they can squeeze out of you every quarter or every year, or can they get you to sign up to long-winded contracts that you then can't get out of.
Yeah.
The last 2 were plan for evolution. So whether that's with regulation, with the tech, workforce needs that will obviously continually shift, the different challenges that we're facing here in the UK, but also for maybe some companies that we deal with that have, operating in other parts of the world as well. So pick systems that can adapt with what you're doing, not necessarily just around what you're doing. You don't want things that are clunky. You want things that can be customizable, flexible. You don't want to use someone's product the way they want you to use it. You want to use the product the way you want or need to use it. And again, I always think the human factor is really important, particularly in the world now, as we've been going on about with AI and different tech, advancements. Compliance is about protecting people, particularly in the sector that we're offering compliance services in. It's not just about ticking boxes. The best systems should make care safer. Not necessarily simpler or to make people's life easier. It's about improving standards, getting right cultures in place, being observant and having good governance structures in place, having good plans for compliance in place, and having people that can competently do those things, whether they're using your tools, using someone else's. So I think the human factor is really, really important. So I'd say they're the top 5. If I was on a procurement team right now, or I was going out looking for one of these systems myself, there'd be 5 of the key factors I'd be looking at.
Look, thank you, Louis, for this crucial conversation. I hope our listeners and viewers out there will find it useful. As always, follow us particularly on LinkedIn, and we're on Facebook as well. And our website, on the Mandatory Training Group website, where we have these blogs as well, and things that we give away, tools to help you make better decisions, especially in a sector where there's a lot of change right now. There are a lot of new players coming in, some old players disappearing, others consolidating. It can make it quite difficult to make decisions. If you have any questions, do get in touch with us. But thank you very much for another week, Louis.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And we've got another interesting topic to discuss, I think, next week as well. So, yeah, as
We're
always.
going to be looking at AI, actually.
Yes, AI. Yeah. I did see what was in the planner for next Friday. So yeah, that'll be another fascinating discussion. We've discussed it a lot today. But yeah, as always, if you've got any questions on what we've discussed, engage with us on socials or speak to our team. We'll be happy to have a conversation with you. Yeah.
Fantastic. See you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.